Start Your Day with a Coach with your host, Sean Butner. Welcome to Happy Monday. Just got off a coaching call, and so took a couple minutes before getting started at the normal time. So I hope you guys had a great weekend. I hope everyone's well. And I wanted to talk to you about how to data responsibly because in a world where we all live online, there's tons and tons and tons of information. And there's not good or bad information, but there is quality information. And, if you can find quality sources and share them and talk to them, you make better decisions, you become more influential, you are able to have a greater impact in the world. And so many people, I feel, in today's world just kind of one off spout very specific stats to try to prove a point and win an argument with the other side. And it's such a problem, because there's misinformation, there's ways that people manipulate data to try to seem more informed, to try to seem more influential, and that's just not the case. So, um, the whole point of this video is to just have a quick conversation on how to data responsibly. Because, the other thing is with all the information out, it can be really time consuming to go through each piece of information that comes your way, which is why we kind of have these gut reactions that, hey, this headline, this stat agrees with what I feel and I believe, but it's not maybe necessarily the truth. But the shortcuts can keep you from going crazy too. So it's a balance. There's too much time, there's too much information. It's kind of overwhelming, and a lot of people will just trust people intuitively that kind of share their values. And something that I'm constantly talking about is how can we be sure that this is true. And a lot of times having that open conversation, like not being attached to being right or wrong, but just exploring, can be super, super helpful as you move forward with your data. So, three quick things to think about is one, have an open discussion, ask questions, and don't attribute your feelings or what you believe the other person believes into the conversation. I'm talking about this. Let me step back before going into have that narrative stuff. But there's somebody that posted a misleading stat on social media, and I just asked a bunch of questions, and it kind of just emerged that the point that he was trying to make was the exact opposite of what the data he was referencing actually showed. But it was, looked at one stat instead of the whole more holistic view, and that really hurt him. So, it just was really misleading. So, I realized I feel a lot more passionately about this stuff than I realized. So, okay, the data responsible. Number one, have an open discussion. Don't be tied to outcomes. Number two, take a look at the validity of the source. So, where does it come from? How might the data be biased? And when I say bias in this, it's just what is omitted, what from the sample, is the sample size big enough? Are the ways that it's being presented to you, like if you have a profit chart, is for a company, is all the profit in chronological order, or is it shifted around to kind of tell a different story? There's an example there. What could the data be missing that might make it even stronger? Those types of like just basic, like, let me get an understanding of what this source is. And the third thing to really think about it as you go forward is like, what is the narrative that this data is trying to tell, and could you make an argument for a different narrative? I personally believe that we can have many different truths. So you could say that. I'm trying to think of a good example off the top of my head, but the data says this for this narrative and this for this narrative. It's the same piece of data. That usually comes down to your values and how you're interpreting it, and so that's very important to realize that you might have a personal bias that's being triggered, and to acknowledge it and then kind of figure out like what is really true. So here's my just wanted to do this quick video for you guys. I hope that it gets you thinking a little bit more about these data sources and facts and memes and things that people post, and you have that like gut reaction to, because I really think the world would be a much better place if people would stop and one actually read the stuff that they're posting, make sure that they stand by it, to make sure that it, if they're trying to make a point, that it actually supports that point. But I also, think it would help slow down some of misinformation and stuff like that out there. So um, hopefully you found this informative and fun. I think there'll be a lot more from me on this subject as I'm gathering my thoughts. And by any means, I don't have this all figured out. This is, but just something that, from being very analytical from my career in engineering, really kind of fascinates me. So I'll be sharing that more. I hope you guys like it. I'll talk to you guys later. Hope you enjoyed this, and see you tomorrow, guys.